Welcome to the show, guys. This week we have already making a huge name for himself, young as he is. Well, I think he's young. He's young in comparison to us. But
thank you,
Mr. Erik Griggs. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I can't be mad at a thing. It's cold and raining in Southern California right now.
Cold in Southern California? You need to be in London, UK. Don't tell me about cold, okay? I'm not interested in hearing about cold. London, UK, cold and wet, okay?
Yeah, you might have.
So I'm not interested. Now, we did have an interview with this guy a few weeks ago, but he's so crazy. He's in the car driving, going through, dropouts of internet, and we're like,
so, was that happening?
So, you know what? We're starting all over again. So, Mr. Erik Griggs, how are you?
Man, I am blessed and happy. I'm doing what
you are pretty blessed, aren't you? You are pretty blessed.
Yes.
There's a lot going on with you.
Oh yeah. We've been working throughout this whole COVID thing. I have been working very hard.
Right.
And it's as COVID is waning, I don't know how over it is or where we are.
Well, I don't know about waning because they're talking about a whole new something coming up now. So I'm not sure about it waning at all. But hey.
Yeah, whatever COVID's doing, I know I've been just as busy.
Well, you're one of the lucky ones. So as you say, you are blessed because a lot of people can't say that. So where are you originally from? Are you originally from California?
In Ohio.
Okay.
Born in Cleveland, Ohio. Raised in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, you got a lot going on there. Born in Ohio, raised in Missouri, now living in California. You're almost multicultural.
Now, I'm obviously at the side of some type of crime.
Well, yeah.
Fire trucks. Okay.
I just don't think we're supposed to have a normal interview ever. Do you know what I mean? It seems that is our fate. Huh?
Maybe I should have driven it.
Yeah. Well, from that, it could only get better. Now, I need you to speak up a bit. Because it's not quite clear on this side. Right. Okay. So you grew up in Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri, and some New Jersey.
And New Jersey.
And I went to school.
Aren't they opposite ends of the map? Aren't they opposite ends of the map? Missouri.
They're pretty far. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not opposite, but pretty far.
Okay.
So I got born in Ohio, raised in St. Louis. Went to school in Alabama, lived there for 9 years before I came to California.
I'm getting exhausted just listening to the childhood journey.
Imagine living it.
Well, no, I can't. So what is the story behind you moving around so much? Because it seems that you had a lot of...
I had a reason for that, like,
okay.
a teacher's kid or a military brat. I wasn't any of those things. We just moved.
Okay. Fair enough.
The Alabama
so when did you pick up music?
What do you say?
When did you pick up music?
So I asked my mom when I started playing the piano because it's the first thing I started doing.
Right.
Because I had no idea when I started. So she told me I became fascinated around 18 months.
Okay.
Never stopped. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I
started. Well, a piano is as good a toy as any.
It was my favorite one at that time.
Right. Yeah. So you started, did you have a piano in the house, obviously?
Yeah, there was a piano in the house. And what she used to do, she used to put me up. I didn't have a playpen or anything. She just put me on a piano stool and clean the house. And she would just hear.
To keep you occupied.
Yeah. I wouldn't really bang on it. I'd kind of just listen and, at 18 months.
Yeah, so, but she kind of was smart because she knew if she didn't hear any keys, you weren't at the piano, you were somewhere else causing mischief. So she was very smart. Yeah, so she like, hello, but, no keys. Okay, where is this child?
According to her, that rarely happened. I usually stayed at the piano.
You were fascinated with the piano from that young age. So for there to be a piano in the house, obviously somebody in the house played apart from the 18-month-old.
Right. Right. Well, my mom is a singer. Right?
Okay.
So she's an opera singer.
Opera.
There's a opera called the Municipal Opera in St. Louis where she grew up.
Right.
And she was the first Black to perform there under contract. So this was her first job at 18 years old. So she's Black history.
So we kind of see where he gets it all from.
Certainly, vocally, my mom was a huge influence.
Right.
My father I didn't grow up with, but he did a whole lot of different creative things, kind of like I do. I do photography, draw and all that kind of stuff too. And he was like that too. Did a bunch of different creative things.
Okay.
He just never pursued one the way that I've done.
So have you got siblings?
I have a sister.
Okay. Is she musical as well, or artistic or creative, or is it?
She's a singer as well.
Okay. The gene has been passed down.
In my family was me, but definitely a musical family.
Right. Okay. So you started, when did you get official lessons then? How old were you?
I only took lessons for like 6 months.
Right. At what age was that? So
13,
long ago, you can't remember.
13, 14, something like that.
Okay. But being a multi-instrumentalist, we call you, you play several things. List me your instruments. Obviously, piano.
Yeah, piano's first, then guitar, then bass, organ, drums.
Okay. Which is quite a good grounding to be the musical director.
Yes.
Always we move on to the musical director. Okay.
Yes.
So when did you first become a musical director, and who for?
A few months ago.
A few months ago. Okay.
My first official musical director gig is the one I currently have with Elder Barge. Kind of, yeah. I was technically his musical
already
director.
The repertoire is so vast he can't even keep up with it. Okay.
That does happen. But about 8 years ago, I went out with Elder Barge and did a few shows, but it was just me and El. So technically I was the musical director, but it was just the two of us on those shows. Now I have a band that I'm actually, directing.
Okay. Now tell us about your People's Award. How did that come about?
Well, that is from my work on a record called No Air. No Air was actually the biggest record of 2008. It was Jordan Sparks and Chris Brown.
Yeah, Jordan Sparks.
It was in the top 5 for 27 weeks.
Wow.
Straight. #1 in 13 countries. It was the biggest record of the year. I got the Song of the Year award for that too, and my first Grammy nomination. This was 2007 when that record came out, the end of November 2007, and then it charted through 2008.
Okay.
9 was my first Grammy nomination.
And that's Jordan Sparks and Chris Brown. And you were writer and co-producer, or?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're solely responsible.
I would not say solely, no, but I'm the principal contributor to that song.
Right. I mean, already you've done quite a lot.
You could say that.
And I remember when we last spoke, because, we couldn't get it quite together to interview properly, because as I said, you were driving and on the way to the dentist, remember?
That's right, it was a dentist.
And I'm happy to see that he left you with plenty of teeth. So that's good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did retain all of my teeth.
All I can see.
That's beautiful.
There are no gaps.
No.
So tell me about your work with El DeBarge.
Well, El's like a brother to me. So, I never really wanted to tour. I never did the whole tour thing on purpose because I didn't want my life to revolve around that.
Right.
Which is why the MD thing happened so late, because I don't really want to be touring on it.
Touring, yeah.
But with El, it's different, because that's, I want to take care of him and make sure that he has the music that he needs to execute who he is, because El is one of the greatest songwriters that ever lived. He's written some of the greatest songs I've ever played, and he should be in a position that's different than the one he's in now. And I want to help him get there in any way that I can. So when he calls, he's one of the 3 or 4 people that will get me out of the house, much less the state. But yeah, it's always an answer.
So how did your association with El DeBarge come about?
I actually met him because of his niece, Christina DeBarge.
Right.
So I was doing a record, which was a remix of Rhythm of the Night for Christina. Right. Which featured El. So I actually met him in the session when I was doing that record. And he came over to play his, to sing his parts. And it's crazy because it's like, when you're working on the song that you grew up on, and then the voice from the song that you grew up on now is on the song you're working on. It's a very surreal experience.
Surreal is the word. It's surreal is the word.
Hearing his actual voice come through my speakers, and vocal producing El DeBarge today, it's like, okay.
And at some stage, he's standing next to you. Yes. And outside, you're like, yeah, well, I do this all the time. I'm cool. But inside, you're going,
that's El DeBarge. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you can't really look like that. You have to just
we
go,
hit it off from day one. We hit it off from day one, man. And shortly after that, I went out and did those first few shows with him. And we didn't see each other for like 8 years for the most part. And then he just called me out the blue. Hey, man, I need you to do these shows with me. All right, no problem.
Yeah, but you must have had a pretty good bond with him for, as you say.
Oh, yeah.
Many people call you and you are like, listen, I'm not even leaving my house, let alone leaving the state to tour with you. So there must have been something special. What was it that was special about him that made you feel about him the way that you do?
Yeah, El is not just a great talent. El's a great human being. And as you matriculate through the industry, you really do see that it is the best people that rise to the top.
Okay.
There's a clear bottom, middle, and top in the music industry. And the middle likes the bottom to think that they're the top.
Okay.
And a lot of the bottom do think they're the top, which is where the myth comes from, that it's the worst people that get to the top, because they're not really looking at the top. They're looking at the middle. But if you can get through that, you'll see that it's like rising above the clouds in a storm. It doesn't rain up.
Yeah.
So it's less friction. It's more love. It's more respect, and it's more happiness and more fun above those clouds in the middle than it was. Now, El DeBarge came up as a child straight to the top.
Yeah.
And he was around some great souls at Motown. Those were some good people there that he was around and got to learn from. And man, that wealth of that school had to be better than any school.
Just being in the environment of so much talent, so much experience, you'd be a fool not to pick something up along the way.
You got Stevie in the next room. You got Marvin Gaye in that room.
You'd be a fool not to pick something up.
How do you not grow into something crazy? So, but he grew up with that, and he's a good person first, and then a musician.
And they're quite a gifted family, aren't they?
Oh man, yeah. You have those families in history where you look at them and say, man, is everybody that good? The wine is
everybody that good looking? Is everybody that talented? It's like, if I look at this album cover any longer, I'm gonna go blind. They're too beautiful. I just can't look.
It's crazy, man.
Oh,
you got the DeBarge is one of those, like the Winans or the Hawkins family or the Jacksons, or all those families. It's obviously in the genes
because you see the sisters like Deborah Laws, Ronnie Laws, Hubert Laws, Eloise Laws. It's all of them. It's got to be genetic. This cannot be random.
I know Ashley Laws, who is Hubert Law's daughter. incredible songwriter, incredible vocalist.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's just really in the family.
Yeah, genetic.
Yeah.
So tell me how you came to the name Blu2th. Because I'm looking at that, I'm going Blu2th. Actually, that says Bluetooth.
Yeah. So Bluetooth is I became, somebody called me that because I had an earpiece in my ear. So it started that way, right?
Right.
I think it was Eric Dawkins who called me that first. So I'm gonna call you Bluetooth because I would arrive with a Bluetooth in my ear every day because I drove from like an hour and a half to get to the studio, and I would.
Yeah, we know he likes to drive from the last one. Yeah, we know he likes to drive.
I actually don't. So that's the funny. But I would drive and I would talk on the phone in the car. So sometimes I wouldn't just take it off before I got to the studio. So I'm gonna call you Bluetooth. Okay, whatever. So that happened for about 2 weeks, and I realized Bluetooth is a technology that transduces what you can't see into what you can hear.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I do for a living. So I was like, you know what? That's me. I'm Bluetooth. So I just changed my whole attitude about it because I call myself that for different reasons.
Yeah. So because I see everywhere you've now become Bluetooth Griggs.
Yeah.
Literally, like it's your official name.
Now my jazz stuff is Erik Griggs.
Yeah.
So it's Erik Griggs on the jazz side. Everything else is Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And eventually, and like every now and then you'll see Erik Bluetooth Griggs, the whole thing written out. Usually either just Bluetooth or Erik Griggs.
But I mean, you've had so many collaborations, and it's interesting to know how so many collaborations with so many different people come about. And I mean, your current Christmas single is Blue Christmas, right?
Yeah.
With Shawn Stockman from Boys
Stockman. So I did 4 songs. One is called Christmas Wish with Shawn Stockman.
Right.
One is Merry Little Christmas with Marsha Ambrosius. Another is the Christmas song with Eric Darius on sax. And another is Joy to the World with Ashley J on vocals.
Right.
So,
I have all 4. Together. Just to let you know, I'm up on it. I have all 4. Okay, I'm up to date.
Thank you, sir.
I'm up on it. But isn't the Shawn Stockman one the one that's the release for Christmas, or is it released as an EP?
4.
All 4 as an EP, right? Okay, I get you.
All 4. They're all 4 singles.
Yeah.
So they're not really compiled as an EP on the net. I released them all as individual singles.
Oh, you see, the way I received them from the powers that be, it's like an EP. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah.
I just didn't compile that way on the net, but it pretty much is an EP.
Now I see a very impressive. You see, I'm up to date. I'm watching you, so don't worry. I'm watching what you're doing.
That's why I don't act up, man.
Marsha Ambrosia, Dr. Dre, all in the studio with an orchestra. Tell me about this, because that looks like old times.
It felt like old times. It sounded
like Phil Spector's wall of sound with Tina, and you know, it's like Quincy Jones with his orchestra.
Yes.
It's like, that's the vibe. Tell me about that.
So there was a pizza party at Dr. Dre's house where over pizza, he said, you know, let's see what happens if we record a couple songs. Right? And really, that's all it was meant to be. Just, you know, let's record a couple songs, see what happens. So we stopped as a team, the ICU, Dre's team, stopped what we were doing and ended up in 1 month and a half making an entire album on Marsha Ambrosius. Whole album done, 1 month and a half. It has a title, it's a whole experience, it's jazz, it's hip hop, it's R&B, and it's not really 33 and a third, it's 100% each. It's 100% jazz, 100% R&B, and 100% hip hop. And we just got into a routine where we would just come in, we make a track, we base it on I might play something from Duke Ellington, and we'd work on that as an intro. Then we go to some hip hop and sample something, and then we could do something with that, and then we'd make an outro, and then she'd be sitting there as fast as Marsha is. She'd written a song already by the time we halfway through the track. But Marsha, you wrote the song, right? Yeah. Whenever you guys are done, I'll cut it. Okay. So we'd leave. She'd go cut the song. By the next morning, it's a whole record. This happened 16 times, and then we ended up with 12 on the project. So it's one of the greatest things I've ever been a part of, as far as just sonically.
But that is all about the enthusiasm, the commitment, commitment, because, you know, to do all of that so quickly in such a short space of time is no mean feat. It's no easy feat. Yeah. So, you know, it's a lot of commitment there, a lot of dedication. And as you said, what's interesting, it's a bit of jazz, it's a bit of bebop, it's a bit of R&B, covering the spectrum. And that is very Quincy Jones and his albums.
It's very Quincy, yeah.
It is very Quincy, you know?
And then we slapped some, man named Erik came in.
And even Sound of Blackness. The Sounds of Blackness, their albums, you know, they're all that kind of...
such a melting pot of things, yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, and I always have to pay homage to that gentleman, Mr. Gary Hines, for, you know, his journey with the Sounds of Blackness. And we spoke on Friday. And, you know, it's just amazing, the Sounds of Blackness.
Never acquire like them ever.
Yeah. But as you said, with what you're creating, it's not just one genre. It's covering the genres of Black music, which I think is far more interesting, taking us back to a time when you put on an album and it was eclectic, you know, it was eclectic. It wasn't the same tedious, repetitive, monotonous beat tempo, you know, so
it's more interesting to listen to, and it's more interesting to work on.
Absolutely. I'm sure.
You know? It kept us excited the whole time. Every day we come to work, everybody's excited.
And when do we get a taste of this?
You know what? I don't know. I don't have a date yet, but there's so much excitement that it can't
sort yourself out, man. You sort yourself out. Come on. Don't be telling me, I don't know, maybe.
I just work here.
Yeah, I just work here. I don't think so. So we're definitely looking at that at some point next year, 2022.
I would say so.
Yeah. And how many pieces on there? How many tracks? 12
tracks.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for you to hear it.
Well, I have to say, I've been following your stuff, and I love your jazz stuff. I have to say, that's what I'm really feeling.
Thank you. You'll have a lot of releases in 2022 for me in the jazz idiom.
Right.
Something like 16 or 17 songs in different stages of completion, at least almost done, to release in 2022. So there's going to be a lot of that coming.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've not heard anything bad from you.
Thank you.
Everything I've listened to, I've actually liked. And I am picky. I am picky. I am a nightmare.
Yes. We're gonna say discerning.
A nightmare with food, with music. You know, it's no easy feat to please me. But I have to say, everything I've heard from your jazz genre, loving it. The Christmas songs on the EP, absolutely love those.
Thank you.
Brilliant take on traditional songs, really.
Yeah.
You know, you have to listen and you think, hold on a minute, that's actually, but you take it in such a different direction.
Yeah.
You're not hearing that at all.
The one that's really original is the one with Shawn, the Christmas Witch.
With Shawn, that's right. Yeah.
Different takes on Christmas carols.
Different take on a traditional song.
Yeah.
The one with Shawn, definitely. But I'm loving all of that. And we're excited to hear your stuff with Marsha Ambrosius and Dr. Dre, because I'm just loving the pictures. I'm enthusiastic about the pictures with, proper orchestra in there, violin, strings. It
sounded so good. It was just the sound of the room was amazing. It's like the Capitol Chambers. Of course, it's right around the corner from the Capitol building.
Yeah, Capitol.
At Universal, but they actually use chambers for the reverb. So it's not digital, it's actual chambers and an actual plate in an actual room to make these two reverbs that just, it's like butter on the strings. It's just like,
well, yes, you know, and I guess it's great to hear you actually say that, because me being an oldie and an old generation, I'm all for that. String section, horn section, percussion section, bass section. Okay, and I feel you cannot replicate that.
Well, see, that's the thing too about Marsha. We also had horn guys in the room pretty much all the time. And Marsha and myself and Dre and the horn players were making arrangements on the spot for these records, and we just cut them just like everything else. Just like we throw a sample in, just like I play some keys, we throw some horns on. And it was just such a synergy going on. It was like never a kink in the chain. We were just always working. And that, you know, it's one of those things where you get to the end and you don't know how it happened. You know, like, how did this get done? We had too much fun to have done this much work.
But I guess that's why it happened. Yeah. Because it was natural, it was organic, it wasn't forced, it wasn't contrived, it was done with willingness and love, and so that's why it happened. And what better way for it to happen than loving what you're doing? That's why the time goes so quickly. So, you know.
Yep. And who you're doing it with.
So now tell us about
the relationships in the room that make it sound the way it does. Pretty much any music that you do, any collaboration that you do, any art, those relationships in the room and how the people who work on things feel about each other does represent itself in the art itself.
Absolutely.
You cannot separate the two as if you can just, divorce the two from each other. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You might have a good song. You might write a good song. But
definitely the relationship is present in the essence of the song.
You're going to hear a difference.
Yeah. So we're going to hear a difference in 2022. Now let's have your list of handles on websites so people can go to them and purchase what you've got. It's better if you say it than I do.
Well, okay. So musically, I've got Blu2thmusic.com, and of course, Blu2th is always BLU2TH, which is my Instagram handle, BLU2TH. That's Instagram. And then, of course, I'm also an internationally published photographer, so I have a site for that too, for the landscape stuff, which is blueprints.art, BLUPRINTS.
Just put in the words blue, guys, you'll find him, okay? Because you realize that's the common thread. But the Blu2th, guys, remember, it is blue and spelled BLU, not blue BLUE. Yeah. It is blue BLU, the number 2 TH. That's how the Blu2th is written, so that you can find him. If you write the regular Blu2th as we know it, you won't find him. Okay, so
no, that's some guy.
It's quite specific. Blue BLU, the number 2 TH, and the website is .com, of course. And you can get all of his stuff there. Check out his jazz stuff, because that's what I'm feeling. I'm telling you, I'm feeling that.
I can't wait for you to hear the rest, man.
Yeah, I'm really feeling that. And the Christmas songs are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So we look forward to seeing you and your stuff over here in the UK in 2022. Yes. Because you cannot be in that room with all that orchestra and not sharing it with everybody, okay?
Yeah, I can. You're absolutely right.
You can't be doing that. So we look forward to seeing you. And thank you for talking to us at the BTM Club.
We appreciate it. I really appreciate you.
And guys, see how much better this interview looks? we don't look like we're in an earthquake with the country.
we should try this one next time.
Yeah, we maybe try this. It was him, not me. Okay, it was him, not me.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Erik, take care. Great to see you. Stay well. All the best for the festive season. And we can't pretend it's any other time. There's my Christmas tree in the back.
Yes.
So
yes, representing.
You know, so you have a great festive season, and we look forward to hearing your stuff in 2022.
Thank you, and you as well. And
all the